Thank you. First, thank you for the invitation that we can speak about Agile in education and especially Agora, our school, and DK, the other school. These are two guys. One of them, Guus, is doing his exam right now. So yesterday he had his last exam about English. And Teun, he is the second year, he joined us. And yeah, we will tell you more about how we learn, and you can ask them also what their experience are, of course. Yeah. When we begin, then we go back to 2013. 4 principles taught again about how we should be looking the education of the future. And they had a seminar and thought, okay, let's try it to do it total different. And we tried to describe it in only 14 pages. So this is the Agora description from 4 principles. And they asked the teachers, some teachers, to make something, the Agora concept, in just one day, every week, 1 day a week to build it, and after 1 year we should start. And okay, that was it. And what you had to do was, the next step was this. And if you think about education, most people of you think this is impossible. You have to go to school, there is no diploma, okay, there's no homework, there are no subjects, there is no classroom, no teaching, nothing. I'm not sure if you ever visited a school like this, or maybe we shouldn't call it school, but the Agora, a place where you connect to people to share your interests, you share your wonder moments, and use the world, and we use the world of Agora. We have 5 worlds where we use our glasses and use your wonder moment, your curiosity, to start your learning experience. So if we visit Berlin, for example, and for Teun it was the first time, he will wonder every moment he will hear. And maybe he come back and he wants to explore more about Berlin. That's the starting. And what we are doing is to make a difference between, on the left side, education, onderwijs in Dutch, and learning on the right side. Education, we take the bus and or the coach, and the coach brings the complete classroom to the end, to the finish, to the exam. What we do is we ask the student, what do you want to learn? And if we started in 2014, we had 34 kids, and we asked them, what do you want to learn? And do you know what they told us? They asked us, what do I have to learn? They were prepared, conditioned, like, I have to ask you what I have to do. And we want to do it, to switch it. We want to get resilience, people who can help us to the next step in our future. And that is what's happening in Agora. We ask the students, what is your wonder moment? And get them back to the intrinsic motivation of learning. And when you look to intrinsic motivation, you see that it should be having some autonomy. Kids should have a relatedness to that's what they want to learn, and they have to be competent in it. And what we also see is, when you go back to the kindergarten, you see that kids play a lot. And when you play, you learn. And that's what we also want in Agora, play. Create field labs, playgrounds where you can play. And when you play, you have different things you do while you are playing. And what is very important is that you create an environment. And this is the Agile in Education Compass we created in 2016 in Orlando. And it's it's maybe based on the manifesto of Agile, but this is the education version, where we say, okay, when you have a wonder moment, just describe your first iteration. What are your thoughts about what you want to learn? And think also about how to learn. So we use Targetprocess, for example, to manage the challenges of the students. These are the features. And then they create user stories with their questions. And then we ask them, okay, if you think this is a real question to you, what kind of task do you think you have to do to realize your idea? And so we ask them to think about their own learning process. And in my PhD, what I'm doing now, I'm doing research about can Agile principles help students to be more self-regulated and help them to support, to develop innovative learning strategies, learning skills. And I hope to finish my PhD in 2020 and can show you the result of these tests. But I think what we see now in our school, that kids are more satisfied, but also more powerful to set the next step, without every time the teacher tells them what to do. Very important is that the school is not only the place where you have to learn. And I have some people from Keske, is a field lab in Kerkrade in the south of the Netherlands with me, and they opened an old building where you can share your knowledge and ask your questions. So this is a field lab about ICT, leisure, and you can visit that place. Just go into the building and share your knowledge. And these guys are there 2 days a week to learn from other professionals, not only teachers, because teachers don't know everything. The professionals know also a lot and use them to go for getting new steps, to making new steps. So if we take a look to Targetprocess, we have on the left side the challenges, and then the questions, the actions, and behind that we have the tasks. And for the teacher, it's very clear what the student is doing right now. And for the student, it's clear what he has to do. And it's his learning path, not the learning path that is designed by the teacher. And that's very important for us. So we use some graphics and so on. And what we are doing now is to try to connect people, to find experts outside of our school. Because these two guys have questions we never heard in school. And should we say to them, okay, you have to wait till you get into university or another time because we have our schedule? No. We are looking for experts outside of the school. And maybe we can also ask you to contribute, to share your knowledge and help these kids to the next level. So that's what we're doing in the Netherlands. We started with 34 kids in 2014 after only a vision document. And now we have 300 kids in school, and we opened 5 new locations in the Netherlands where schools start with this vision of education. And we hope it will be a success in the next time. Yeah, that was my presentation about Agra. And of course, you can ask also the students about their experience, because they are the professionals in our system.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Guido. Well, thanks for this great inspiration. Do you guys have any questions ready for Guido, Teun, and Guus? No, let's just wait a few seconds until our slide is up. Well, Olga is asking you not to change it yet, but we can come back to that later. It's all right. Okay. Inspirational. At what point in education, life, growing up, could this start? So when... I guess the question is when is it okay to start with this kind of self-directed learning approach in a person's life? Yeah, you guys share the microphone.
So I think, of course, the most important people in school are the students and the teacher, still the teacher. But he's not only the person who has the knowledge, but he is a professional in learning, should be, how to learn. So he will guide, help the student to make his path, to be a prefrontal cortex of the student, to help him in self-regulation. And I think every learner can do this. I have a daughter of 5 years old, and she has questions. And we can do it also with 4 years old kids. So it is getting the wonder moments and push them in questions and make their iterations.
The next question is to you guys. What are your plans for the future? Where do you want to work? In which area? What do you say?
Well, I don't know in what area exactly I want to work yet, but I do know that I'm planning on going to study at the University of Amsterdam. And I'm planning on going to do a study called PPLE. It's a bachelor's, and it focuses on 4 main areas, actually. It stands for psychology, politics, law, and economics. And as it sounds, it's pretty widely oriented. And I'm going for that because I'm not sure yet what exactly of those areas I want to develop myself in professionally.
Teun, do you have any ideas what you want to do later after school?
Well, at the moment I'm trying to experiment with a lot of different things. So we'll see in the future what I like. But at the moment I'm busy with more technical things and with physics and science. It's around those areas now, but that can change in the future. So
what's the project you're working on right now at Agora?
I'm working on multiple things. At the moment, I'm busy programming. What do you call it? Like how I can measure how fast something travels. And I use this because I made an air gun. Yeah, I started getting questions like how fast does it travel? How fast does it have to go to reach a certain point? So that's why I started programming, and now I can program a bit and I can make something that measures the speed. So out of a stupid air gun, I started programming. So out of something very simple, I can make my learning field bigger and bigger. So that's what I'm busy with at the moment, but there's a lot of things.
Yeah, great. So is this the only school you guys attend?
Yeah, I guess you could say Keske and Agora are my schools at the moment. Previous year I did go to a different school. That didn't go very well. Well, my grades were up here, but how I felt was down here. So on Saturday, the last Saturday of summer vacation, we were getting my books for the next year. But then we said, yeah, it is not going to work. So I decided to switch schools.
Thanks. What about you, Guus?
Actually, me and Teun started at Agile this year, and we both came from the same school. But well, my grades were also like just fine, but my motivation and all those things were actually just fine either. The reason I came to Agile is just to really take control of my own development and take control of my own tempo and rate at which I learn and the things I do, and to focus on like the essentials of all the subjects I have to take in order to like get my final exams, but not like a lot more, like no nonsense around it, because I felt like that happened a lot, and a lot of things that, well, I was forced to learn didn't really benefit me as much as I would have liked, seeing as the little time you have in secondary education.
Thank you. We have a next question from Rui. How do you integrate with traditional educational system and later can go to university? So maybe Guido, you can talk about it.
Now you see two examples of kids. Teun is exploring himself, and Guus knows where he wants to go to. So after 3 years of exploring yourself, we get a better insight of who are you, what kind of interest do you have, not based on notes of subjects, but your interest. So what we see, we are a public school. That means, and I showed we have now diploma. That was our biggest idea. You don't need to have diploma in our case, but we are a public school, so you need to do an exam. And the exam is in the Netherlands an exam for every student, the same exam in May. So we have to do this, and that is a challenge also for Teun and also for Guus, to prepare themselves, but they know how to learn because they know themselves and how they learn. So an exam is for them also a challenge. Only the thing, what we are seeing now, Guus is doing some exams this year and takes some time to do the exams next year. So that is what we do. And so we have the same criteria at the end like the other public school.
Maybe I'll add to this question. When we visited these guys a few years ago, remember you had some kind of meeting with people from the Ministry of Education visiting you. So there was a dialogue going to try to find an interface between schools like Agora and further steps in the educational system. What I was positively surprised about is how humble these people from Ministry of Education behaved. Like they were really showing respect to this experiment, saying, you guys are the future of our education, so we let you do whatever you're doing, and let's just collaboratively find the common interface of how we let these kids grow into the next step in the system. Did this go anywhere?
Sorry,
like did the Ministry of Education come up with some ideas of finding an interface?
Yeah. They say it's okay because you that's the law, and you don't you follow the law, so there's no problem. If you say, okay, we can show there is some development, then it's okay for our education department. And the best the reaction of the inspection was, do we have also an Agora in our own city? Do you plan an Agora in the north of the Netherlands? And that was for us an okay, a go. Yeah.
How do you measure the success of the learning path chosen by the students? KPIs, huh?
So what we do is, do you want to answer? Or
the measure of success is like how you feel about yourself, right? About the things that you're doing. And I think that for everyone that's really different, so you can't really like put a universal measure on that. Of course you do have the final exams, and that is like a verification of the things you know and the things you can do on a certain level. And that's why I think we shouldn't like totally erase the final exams, because that wouldn't simply work like that in society. But I think that the biggest part about coming to Agora is really like developing yourself. And the more you do your best to do that, I think the more happy you're going to be and the more successful in your own vision.
What we also do is to set some criteria, acceptance criteria. So they plan their activities, but also has to explain when are they satisfied. So from the beginning, they describe the criteria of the outcome they want to reach. So that's in discussion with the coach, the expert, and then we check if that is reached.
So who is the product owner? Is the student the product owner or the customer? Or is the state?
It's the product owner in the first years, that's the student. And afterwards, we have to prepare them to the exam. Then the expert will help the student to set the goals.
Do you have remote classes?
No. No, create a field lab and start learning. That's all. What we are planning is a serendipity pod, a video connection between field labs that you can find each other, and that's what we do. But we don't have remote classes. No, not yet. No.
Maybe to add to this, I know that you guys are very open and actually they engage other people, adult people, like parents or other professionals to interact with the school. Yeah, so you have parents coming to give expert talks in the classes, and can you talk about that a little?
No, there is a parent sitting there, and you, Paul Krutsen, and the father of Teun. And when you are a parent of a child of Agra, then we ask you two times in a year to participate, to join Agra, to do a presentation or share your experience about your job, but also your hobby. And we ask the parents every 6 weeks to come to the community evening. And the students will share what they learned. So they are very active. That's something we ask from
also,
them.
maybe, Jorge, you weren't aware, but we connected Agora with a business unit of Actemium in the Netherlands. Yeah, and they were already discussing some collaboration about that. So, Targetprocess is acting as a midwife or something.
Sorry? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. This is a real revolution. Woo! Do you find that some students don't share because they have this knowledge? They have knowledge is power belief? Okay, so I think the question is how the sharing between students happens. Is there some competitiveness because like I know more, so I'm more powerful and I don't share my knowledge with you? Can you talk about competition versus non-competition? How does it work?
Well, what I actually quickly realized at the start of this school year is that because everyone is working individually and working on their own stuff, there's actually like almost no such thing because, well, everyone is following their own path and you can't like really compare those with each other. And maybe there is like in people's minds, but it's like way less than on a normal, at the regular school I was in. Because, well, I already said why, because people are doing their own thing, so you don't have to be worried about someone doing better because you're not doing the exact same. And everyone is actually really social, again, because they're doing their own thing. That's why they like reach out to others to collaborate and do things together, because it's like they don't have to compete. It's not like that in any way.
Do you also work in teams, or is it everybody really just goes through the process totally individually?
Well, that depends on the type of challenge you're doing. So if you decide to like do a team exercise or anything like that, and you find people that have the same interest and want to do that, then go on and do that. There's no like real rule that you have to cooperate with other people or that you shouldn't or anything like that. It's really free. So it's nice to see that also creates like something more than just friendships in the school. It creates like real partnerships sometimes because people actually work together.
Thank you.
May I say something about the first part of your question? I did some research about the feeling of belonging to a group in a traditional school related to your competence in your class. So if you have high notes or lower notes, and the relation to your group. And what I found in my research was that there was no correlation in an Agile group. And in traditional schools where gymnasium, you found high, the students with high notes were more related to the group than others. So they need each other because they don't have a curriculum. And they are a part of the society.
Thanks. A question to the students. How old are you guys?
I'm 16. And
I'm 12 at the moment. I get that a lot.
Cool. How would you compare Agile education to the Finnish model or the Montessori methods? Probably to you, Guido.
I don't know, but I think he knows, right?
So there's a difference. I don't say they are not good. You don't hear that from me. But what the difference is, we don't start with content. We don't start with the predefined content you have to learn. We start with the interaction, the relation between the teacher and the student. And the interest, who are you? And what are your questions? What are your wonder moments? And then we start your learning experience. And after a while, we decide together, okay, the next step is to get your diploma and so on. So I think Montessori are doing great things, and also in Kunskapsskolan education in Sweden. But they start always from the content, from the subjects, and that is different from our side.
Thank you. Do you see any risks in this approach? And if yes, how do you manage them?
Well, what I found out when I started at Agile was that like nobody was there to push me around anymore. Nobody was there to tell me what I was going to do. And if I wanted to start with my with the subjects and my exams like 3 months before the exams were actually taken, then I'd have almost been okay to do that. Like, of course, I wasn't really going to be let go and do that, but I really felt like I had a lot more freedom and therefore a lot more responsibility to myself, and that felt heavy at the beginning, and I really had to come to terms with that because I had to plan my own week, and I had a lot of freedom in that, and I had to make my appointments with my experts. Like, that's another word for teachers, but we say experts. And what happened is that in the beginning, because I procrastinate like a lot, what happened was that I would like crop up all my work, and then like a day before I had my appointment, I would like study all the things and make all the assignments, and I just couldn't finish it. And when you don't finish what you have to do, you don't really know what it's about. You can't ask the questions that you were gonna have because you didn't like go over the entire subject of that week. And the time you have with an expert in a week is very valuable because you only have like half hour to an hour every week, like per subject. And well, that makes the time very valuable because it's really focused on your questions and like more explanation. So it's not really focused on making assignments together because, well, for me personally, I like to do that alone. So like very quickly I learned more. I was way better at planning my own week and planning my own things. Like the responsibility really got to me, and I think that really helped in a short period of time.
Like who said, with a lot of freedom comes a lot of responsibility as well. And I think that a lot of students can, if they want, misplace that. Because if they decide to do way less than they normally would, yeah, then it's their own fault. I noticed this in the beginning as well, because I was used to people telling me what to do, and not used to having to do everything myself. And this is where I kind of struggled with, okay, I have to do something, but what am I going to do? So that really got on my nerves in the first few months. And I can see that some students still struggle with that they have a lot of freedom and they don't always do the same amount of work that they should do. So yeah.
Thanks.
I think,
Yeah.
So that they feel the freedom, and it's some awareness we have to create with them. So we have every week a coach session where we reflect on what happened. So we don't get angry if you didn't finish your work, but we ask you, what's the reason? Why? And then you get the next step.
Cool. With this approach and culture, and when you get to the university, it has... Wait, something is jumping. Okay, no worries. People are voting, so it's jumping. Let's be on the top, no worries. The students here today were already doing well in schools before they joined. Has this approach worked for difficult to handle to students who struggled before? Okay, I personally struggle with the second part of this question, but you get it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like what you really see at Agora is that a lot of the times, almost all of the time, the struggle of the student wasn't in, like, also with a very good friend of mine who was first in my class, like the same level. Then 1 year he dropped a level, and it wasn't because of he didn't cut it. He just wasn't motivated enough to do it, and he was someone who just did what he had to do, and he got like the minimum grades he needed to pass the year. And 2 years ago it failed, so he was dropped a level, and that totally crushed his motivation, because then on that level he didn't even have to show up to get like sufficient grades. So then he got like in conflict with the school, and then he came to Agora, and there he said, like, I want to get back on the level I was on previously, because I can cut it. I just wasn't motivated enough because school was like way too structured for me. So now he's just doing his best. He's also doing final exams like a year early, just same as me. And what you see is that it's not really about being able to cut it, it's about being motivated to cut it. And that's what you see with a lot of students, that when they're able to do the things that interest them, they go great lengths without even really having to struggle for that.
Thanks. Well, there's another question. Maybe, Guus, you can keep the microphone. Somebody is asking, after all this approach and culture you guys have in Agora, then you go to the university, and there you meet some traditional culture. So will it probably feel strange to you guys after that? What are your thoughts?
I actually don't think anything will be able to prepare me better on the increased responsibility and freedom I'm going to get in uni, like living on my own and studying on my own. Nobody there to tell me that I should get sufficient grades, because if I don't, then I'll just drop out. That's my problem. And I think that Agora really prepares you for that in ways that a traditional secondary education will actually never do, because it's way too focused on pushing you around. So I think that's not going to be the case, actually.
Thanks. Who is designing the game and the environment where students learn at Agora?
So when you play, you have players. And the players are the students. And the only place you need is a room. So we have a room, a casket, a building, and people who want to play. And that's all. We don't shape an environment for them. There's an interaction between people. And then they come with suggestions how to build the building. And Paul started 1.5 years ago with an empty building, and together with students, politicals, employees, he built that building to a learning environment. But how it was planned, we don't know. Even he didn't know. It's the community that built the playground. And that differs from the place where you start. So don't copy Agra in Berlin, make your own Agra.
Thanks. I saw a question, somebody was interested if it's not too late to join at 32.
No, no. No problem. Even in the Netherlands, it's possible to start your education at 32. You get money for it. Yeah, why not?
Great. Well, maybe to finish this, do you find this approach makes your students more confident? Maybe you guys can talk about that.
Well, I think it's quite obvious that it definitely did that. And like, I only started this year, as I said repeatedly, but it gave me such a boost in such a short time because, again, the added responsibility, you have to come to terms with that in the beginning, but when you do that, you're so much more confident about your own decisions and the things you do and the things you say, because you know that it all, well, a lot of things for me sparked with the original like decision to come to Agora, because it was like a very tough decision. I only had 2 years to go, and then I could finish my final exams to go to uni, so like this was a real leap of faith to go to a random school that only existed for 4 years, didn't actually have like final exam results, so that was all like a mystery. But what really drew me to it was the responsibility and the ability to take your own path or to make your own path. And once I did that, like again, I had to take a leap of faith. I had to like start, doing it on my own. And really, I had to think about the things I wanted to do. I still do actually, because I'm in the midst of my 5 final exams this year, and I only have 3 next year. And we did that on purpose. We pulled 5 of them a year ahead because I wanted to have like more time and more freedom to do the things that interest me, to do the things I want to do before like the new burden of uni and all that just came over me. So after I made that decision and after I started out, I just really felt like everything went like with a multiplier. It just increased and increased. My responsibility, my freedom, my confidence, all of that. And I know for a fact that Teun is actually also like 5 times more the present personality he was like a year ago, but I think he can talk about that more himself.
So you, I can say that in the beginning it didn't make me more confident, but at the moment it really did, because previous year when I had a presentation on school, home would be like hell. I would tear up the place. I would stress out so much over a simple thing that I actually could do very well. It's just that I didn't have the capability at the time. Well, a few months earlier, I actually went to a different city, to a university there, to give a workshop to people in the university. Yeah, and that was kind of like the first step. And I also have, I help teach a class on Wednesday now. There was a teacher of a nearby school, and he had his own like maker space, I guess you could call it. And the people in that school, if they wanted to, they could go to him, and then they made all kind of special projects. School didn't really get to support it that much, so we started in Geske, the tower. The Geske tower, that's right. And he just gave up 1 day of his contract, and now he makes that money back at Geske, and because more and more people came, he needed someone to help them, and I volunteered. So I definitely got a very big boost. You would not recognize a picture of me previous year. I was like, ugh. So it went from this and this to.
All right. So, hey, there are questions coming up and up and up. So I suggest you guys just grab them over lunch and keep torturing them with what interests you. Just to finish up, you are the future, guys. Great job.
One last question. I want to thank Targetprocess to support us, but we are not only, we started this morning at 3 o'clock in the morning to come to Berlin. We still have also other people with us. So if you have questions about Nikkei, Geert and William, where are you? There, you can ask them also. And about Keske, Paul and Andre, they are sitting there, man with the beard, and yeah. So we are with 7 people. Just ask us, and we answer it. Thank you.
All right, so we all go to